Emmett Lynch is a professional sleep coach, and we thought with Club Championship here now for most players over the next couple of weeks, it'd be a great time to have him on. So, first of all, thanks a million for coming on today, Emmett. How are you keeping?
I'm keeping good, a bit nervous, but we're all right.
And just to kick us off, like say, how did you get involved in this line of work? Actually, there's probably not too many professional sleep coaches out there. So, how did you get involved?
I suppose there's a couple of things here. When we talk about professional sleep coach, my job is I'm actually trained in a thing called cognitive behavioural therapy for insomnia and sleep anxiety, which are the gold standard support and treatment for any person that may present with sleep related issues in that area. So I often say to people, I don't do sleep hygiene. So if you want to do sleep hygiene, work away. It has its place. It's very helpful. Go on the HSE website, go on the NH website and download the information and work away. My space is a bit different as we get under the bonnet of what is actually preventing you from getting to sleep when your head hits the pillow at night time, when you're waking up during the night and you just can't get back over, or you have anxiety around bed if you wake up and you can't get back over, or you just wake up too early and you says, oh my God, you're staring at the ceiling and you just get up out of bed. So there's all them type of issues. So what got me into this space is, look, to be honest with you, I think what got me into this was I also had my own issues with sleep. It was a perfect storm. To be honest with you, I had moved jobs, I had moved house, we had two kids, everything you're trying to get that juggle right. And I knew that I was trying to get to sleep, but I couldn't because my mind was just so busy. And I knew from my own background that God, this doesn't sit right, doesn't feel right. So it kind of drove me and they kind of delve a wee bit deeper. Into how I can kind of get it. But then I remember going out and doing workshops in mental health within my own local community. And I remember just randomly bringing up one night about how's everyone sleeping? And there was 18 people in the room and 16 people put their hand up and says, sleep, what's that? And I remember just scratching my head going, God, that's really interesting. And then the next group I had on, I says to them, look, where are you at with your sleep? And again, they turn around, only two turn around and goes, oh, I can sleep, no worries. And must have been about 10 people in the room. So the other eight turn around and says, God, you're so lucky. I would love to be able to sleep, but I can't. And then that kind of got me scratching my head going, flip me, there's a whole area here, that's been not really kind of looked into. So I decided then to go back and actually get trained up online. Took me about 9 or 10 months to get trained up as an adult sleep coach, but I knew that wouldn't be enough. So then I went over to England and I got trained up in cognitive behavioural therapy for insomnia through the sleep charity in England. And then that kind of set me off on a different journey. How to get my accreditation, my training, my insurances, my qualifications. And then I've been kind of practicing this now for the last maybe 14 months, which is really, really good. And I'm getting lots of clients through from all walks of life, from county players to very good club players, from senior the whole way through to junior, both men and women. I go and deliver workshops at clubs, workplaces, and community groups, which I love. And I also offer online sessions for people. But then I also work out of a place in Derry called Your Physio Therapy Practice, which is a private clinic out in Campsie. And they've been so supportive to me, Kevin. They're so invested in this because they're a physiotherapy private clinic and they really see the benefits on sleep supporting your recovery. So big shout out to Stephen and his partners and all the guys who work out in Your Physio. They've been really supportive of me.
Mm. And yeah, I suppose like just to kick things off, like I'll have you've mentioned there you do online sessions and stuff. I'll have your Instagram and your details linked in the description. So if anyone's listening and
Thank you.
they want to get in touch with you and this is something they're struggling with,
Yep.
they can just scroll down and they'll find it there. But I suppose just to like obviously this podcast has a GA focus and recovery is such a big thing. People understand now that the number one recovery tool is sleep, and you can go into all your supplements and different bits and pieces, but sleep ultimately is going to be the number one thing that will help you recover quickest. You mentioned there like you've worked with club players and county players over the last while. um what are they coming to you with when they first come to you? What are they telling you? Is it something they're struggling with? Is it something that they just want to improve? What's the most common issues, or what are they telling you when they first reach out?
It depends really. So you hit the nail on the head here. GA players are very knowledgeable. They are, as are most kind of sports people now. We just have everything. We know pretty much what we need to know about nutrition, about hydration, about strength and conditioning. But it is amazing that when we talk about sleep, at how much or how little people know. And it's not a reflection on their intelligence or anything out there, is that there's a lot of myths, Steve or Kevin, around sleep. Like, you must get 8 hours. You must have a consistent bedtime routine. People are spraying lavender on their pillows. They're buying this and they're buying every supplement under the sun, and they're tracking their sleep to death. And I'm just kidding. And really, what I see when people track their sleep is a thing called ortho insomnia. It's people's obsessing about the perfectionism in sleep. And I can let everybody know now it doesn't exist. And stop chasing after it, because it is something that you will never catch up with. But the main reasons why people come and speak to me, if it is from a county player to a club player or any walk of life from a GAA background, it can mainly down to either they're finding it difficult to get to sleep. So they're tired down in the living room, they go into their bedroom, their head hits the pillow, and automatically, boom, their brain just comes alive. And they're just finding it so difficult to get to sleep. And then before they know it, they do what everybody does, is they pick up their phone, they check their time, and they says, oh, flip me, it's 12 o'clock. I must now get to sleep. And then what happens there, we get negative sleep thoughts is, what happened? No, what if I don't get to sleep down the next 7 hours? I'm going to be wrecked tomorrow. I'm going to be shattered tomorrow. I have training tomorrow. And all of a sudden there's a fear and there's anxiety and there's a whole entire expectation around it. And then they look at the clock again and they write, oh my God, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. And here comes this flood of anxiety into the system and stress. And people are wondering, right, how am I meant to get to sleep? And they're really, really struggling in them spaces. The other one is people can get to sleep no problem, but they wake up in the middle of the night, either 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And sometimes that could be a very natural reason. You might have a noisy neighbor, you might have a dog barking down the street, or your partner might be snoring their head off, or you might need to get up because we're all a certain age now. You might need to do a trip to the bathroom, which is fine, but then it is finding it difficult then to go back over to sleep again. And then another thing that I would find is the anxiety sometimes of not sleeping enough. Because sometimes we're always told that if you aren't sleeping 8 hours every night, 7 days a week, equals a link to dementia and Alzheimer's and depression and type 1 diabetes and cardiovascular illnesses. It's just all based on fear. And really what I would find, Kevin, my job is, number one, is to sit down and do a sleep assessment with a person first and actually figure out where they're at. And what we would find too is we would do a thing called a sleep efficiency rating, where we actually figure out is the hours that you spend in your bed divided by the time that you're sleeping, multiplied by 100. So really what we're kind of looking there for is people to be sitting around maybe a 70 to 80% sleep efficiency rate. Because what I would find a lot of the time too is people are going to the bed when they're tired, but they're not going to the bed when they're sleepy. Very, very different things. So people turn so tired can be, you've done a training session, you're sitting in you're sitting in an armchair, you're sitting in the sofa, and you're tired. Sleepy is that you can't keep your eyes open. Where often people, what I would find to come and see me is they're actually allowing their sleep to be dictated by the clock on the wall. Oh, flip me, it's 10 o'clock at night, it's 10:30. I must get to sleep now. Where my whole gig is actually based on sleep quality rather than sleep quantity, which is more and more important than anything else. And one thing that I would find too, when people kind of come and see me, they're obsessed with this 8 hour rule. And I often say to people, that's the biggest myth that's ever been told. And I actually find it actually creates more fear than anything else. So for me, Kevin, the thing about sleep is sleep's actually a feeling rather than a number. Because if you go chasing after numbers, you're not going to get it. But for me, it really is about it's a feeling. And I also say to people is that don't judge the quality of your sleep the moment that your eyes open in the morning time. Judge the quality of your sleep and where you're at 10 o'clock during the day or 11 o'clock in 10 o'clock morning time or 11 o'clock during the day is a very good indicator of the type of quality of sleep that you have. Other wee things that I would encourage people to think about too, if they want to, rather than track their sleep, that's helpful. Sleep trackers are helpful, but they have to be looked at with a degree of curiosity rather than obsession. I've worked with a couple of boxers now where first thing they do is they wake up in the morning time and they look at their score, their sleep score, and then they feel, right, that will determine on how much effort I can put into my training that day, which is a dangerous thing because the reality is that your sleep tracker can only really tell you where you were at the start of the journey and where you are at the end. It doesn't tell you that in between, is because
Okay.
your non-REM2, non-REM3 and your REM sleep is actually measuring brainwave activity. And how very helpful sleep trackers are They actually can't measure that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, you've touched on a few really interesting things there. Just the first one, you were talking about schedule there, and like one of the things I would have kind of just from from reading about it and from social media and things like that, that people should always have a sleep schedule, should get up at the same time and go to the bed at the same time every day. So are you saying that you don't always have to sleep 8 hours a night, you don't always have to get up at the same time every day to have good sleep?
Well, there's a couple of things there, right? So if we go right back to the basics, this myth about you have to go to your bed at the same time every day, it's just or nighttime, it's simply just not true. You go to bed when you're sleepy, not when your routine is, because sometimes routines can be quite helpful. But what I would find in my space, they actually create a wee bit of anxiety, and actually people are actually putting off doing things in the evening because they're afraid that it might impact their sleep that night. Where my whole thing when it kind of comes to sleep, one of the foundations of sleep is actually anchoring your morning. Is actually a morning routine is way more important than a nighttime routine. So it's actually getting up at a consistent time during the in the morning time, including weekends, where often people are very good Monday to Friday, and then what they try to do on a Saturday and Sunday, they try to sleep on later, and they try to bank sleep, which is physically impossible. You can't bank sleep. Sleep's not a Tesco club card. You can't pay them it, unfortunately. Uh, but what I would say is, if you really want to get your head around sleep, is have a bedtime menu. All right, and what I mean by that is things that's actually very good for you, that sends a message to your central nervous system that your day is done and you're now in relax mode. Now, that could differ in all walks of life. It can be scrolling on your phone. It can be watching Yellowstone on Paramount. It can be watching something on Netflix. It can be reading. It can be whatever you choose that to be. And it doesn't have to be the same thing every night, because not every night's the same. But the big thing that I would encourage is anchoring your day in terms of getting up the same time, including weekends. And why that's really, really important is because, see, the trick to sleep, it's actually being awake longer.
Yeah. And yeah, and that does make sense. This might be veering into the more sleep hygiene area, which I know is not your main domain. But are you saying it's okay then? A lot of people would say that watching TV in the evenings or being on your phone scrolling before bedtime would negatively impact your sleep. What's your thoughts on that?
Look, there's not a way that evidence to suggest that's true, to be absolutely honest with you. The genie's out of the bottle here when it comes to scrolling on phones and watching shows on Netflix. Do you enjoy it? Happy days, I say, fill your bits. The thing is that we're very good in health and taking things off people. Don't be doing that. I know, oh my gosh, if you do that, something bad's going to happen. And really, all that does is create fear and anxiety. And that's not good when it kind of comes to sleep, because the thing is, when it comes to sleep, is that your body doesn't sleep unless it feels content, peace, and at ease. And if you take peace and ease and contentment from scrolling on your phone, I don't know, if it is watching a TV show, whatever that is, work away. We were told for years that the blue light in your phone equals messing up the melatonin receptors in your brain and stuff like that. Again, that's been completely disproved. But for years, that was the gospel. But I can tell you right now, son, I scroll on my phone when I'm in my bed, and that's okay. you know, the thing is about it's a difference in scrolling on your phone, right? And then getting into a deep dive on some mad conspiracy theory on, that's very, very different. Which I often find from some of the clients I work with, they says, Emmett, I actually I have a few topics, things that I'm interested in on my phone, on my Instagram feed, and I actually find it's very relaxing, and I really enjoy that. And I says, right, that's good, as long as you're not scrolling on your phone and doing daytime stuff like answering emails and stuff like that, because you want to make that wee separation there too. So as long as you're scrolling your phone but you're not doing work related action stuff, that you're doing things on your phone that you enjoy. So it can be like playing one of the Candy Crush games, whatever that is, it's completely dead on.
Okay. And what about then, you were talking earlier about, say, when your head hits the pillow and then your mind starts racing. And I think a lot of people will really identify with that. And some people, they lie down and they'll fall asleep straight away. And then other people have the opposite. Say if I give you a scenario of a GA player, it could be, the week of a championship game, could be the night before or 2 nights before. They lie down and their mind is just racing about the game. What would you advise them in that scenario? What should they be doing?
Okay, a couple of wee things there. They might actually just be going to bed too early. So I would be saying go to your bed later. There's no 2-pointers scored lying in your bed at night time staring at the ceiling. Okay, so if you want to land a 2-pointer for your sleep, go to your bed later. Go to your bed when you're sleepy, not when you're tired. Often what I would find, and a very simple methodology what I would do is actually write down what you're thinking. Okay, very simple thing. Write down what are your anxieties, fears, or hopes about the game coming up. Okay, and then split that down into worst case scenario, best case scenario, likely scenario. And you kind of break it down to that, and you write it down physically, because it is amazing what happens when you physically write it down. And then when you actually go to the worst case scenario, I want you to kind of circle is how likely is it that that's going to happen. And often what we'll find is that it's probably not going to happen. And then what we could do is then we go to the best case scenario. What likely are these are going to happen? And then you can circle them. And then you go over to what likely will happen. And then when you go over there, I want you to identify actually what's within your control and then what is not within your control. Very simple tool before. And what I've encouraged people to do that is maybe an hour before actually going up the stairs to their bed. And why that's really, really important is when we unpack our brain onto a piece of paper, we actually identify going, in my head, I thought this was 40 or 50 things spinning around at once. But when we empty that cognitive load onto a piece of paper, we actually find out, oh, there's only like 7 or 8 things there too. And then what we do sometimes too with some of the clients I work with is see some of these worrying thoughts that you might have either about the game or whatever. Is there any that you could live with? And he turns and says, I could live with that one or that one or that one. Is there any ones that you could tolerate? Yeah, I could tolerate that one, that one, that one. And is there any ones that you could let go? Yeah, I could let go of that one, that one. So can you see when they've went now from a space of lying in their bed staring at the ceiling, maybe there could be a lot of pressure put on them. But when they when we go through that session with them, we actually find that they're in a far better space so that when they go to bed, they've unpacked it. So now they've created a better environment now to go to sleep. If they don't want to kind of do that, I would say to them, if you're still lying in your bed after about 30 or 40 minutes and you're just not going over to sleep, you might want to consider doing a thing called a sleep reset. Is you go back downstairs to your living room, you reset, you stick your show back on, you might listen to Humans of the GA podcast, whatever that may be, or stick on Yellowstone. I'm a big fan of Yellowstone.
Yeah, it's good.
Whatever you want to do is reset and then try again. There's no, you're not going to land any 2-pointers lying in your bed, tossing and turning all night, because what you're going to do there is add frustration. Plus, what you might be doing is actually conditioning your body to associate your bed with wakefulness rather than sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Another one that I've often wondered was, say, the morning of a game. So you were talking before about, you should always get up at the same time. Say you go to bed and you just allow yourself to have a lie, and then you might not have a game until 7 p.m. on a Saturday evening, and you just don't set an alarm and you allow yourself to wake up at 10 or 11, whatever it is. Is that healthy, or should you still try and get up at a relatively early time like you have done Monday to Friday?
I think you should definitely stick to your consistent get up time. Why that's really good, because it actually helps to recalibrate your circadian rhythm and your sleep pressure for that night. Now, what I would encourage, particularly if you have a later game in the evening time, is a thing called a controlled rest period. Another word is it a nap, but I'm not mad on naps, because naps are good if you're a granny or you're a cat. But not a lot of people kind of see me would identify as either of those. So for me, Kevin, it would be a controlled rest period. So what you would do there is consciously you would pencil in 30 to 40 minutes that day where you will purposely have a controlled rest period where you don't need to sleep. You just need to rest. Now, resting would be, it's not lying on the settee or the couch, the sofa, or your bed scrolling on your phone. It's actually closing your eyes quietly and allowing your body to rest. We found that that's actually very, very good. And it's a controlled rest period where you have a start time of, say, 2 p.m. and you're finishing at 2:40. And it's going to be a part of your house where you know that you're not going to be disturbed, and you're penciling that in. We've found that's actually quite helpful in terms of, number one, getting that energy back into the body, allowing the body to rest so it can perform better that night. And we find that's really, really helpful for people. And ideally, what you probably want your control rest period to be happening is maybe 4 hours out from the start time of your game, or 5 hours out from the start time of your game. So you can get hydrated, you can get your food in D, plus you've had your control rest period, and now your energy levels are fully stocked and you can perform better.
Hmm. And would you recommend then setting an alarm in case you do fall asleep? You don't want it to go over 40
Yeah,
minutes?
and that's the thing. The reason why I kind of say 30 to 40 minutes is because we don't. So if you look at the sleep cycle, so you've got non-REM 1, non-REM 2, non-REM 3, and then REM. The reason why I be kind of saying 30 to 40 minutes is because you don't want to be etching into non-REM 3, which is deep sleep. Because sometimes too, if you go into that and you're woken up, you can actually feel more groggy coming out of it. So really, this is more of a power nap or a power recovery phase more than anything else. So you're still getting the benefits of it without waking up groggy.
Hmm. Another aspect would be, say, after game. So if we stick with that 7 p.m. game scenario where, a lot of players be taking caffeine before the game, caffeine
Yep.
guns, taking gels. They might go for a few pints after the game, or else
Yep.
there's a lot of adrenaline going through the system, whatever it is, but they will they will struggle. And especially from talking to intercounty players, they'd be so wound up because, you could have 40, 50,000 people. You're your system is just in overdrive because there's so much adrenaline going through you. So they would really struggle, and it could be 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. They're in work the next morning, if it's a Sunday game, whatever it is. So, what are your thoughts around that, or any recommendations for getting to sleep after games?
Well, the thing is about take the shoulds and the musts out of that situation immediately. You have to be more compassionate and nurturing with yourself when you're in them situations. So there's no point you trying to force it when you know that the adrenaline is pumping through your body. What I would be kind of saying is, what things can you do to send a message to your central nervous system that you aren't in that place anymore? Is it? Is it breathing? Is it relaxing on the sofa? Is it talking to your partner? No, all the things that you would normally do. And I would say is go to bed later. So the thing is about no one's ever died of a bad night's sleep. So what you probably find is, the next day will be a bit bumpy, but you know what, you'll be all right. And how you get over a bad night's sleep is having a good night's sleep the night before, the following night. So
Mm.
it's okay. So when you do wake up, and you'll also find too, as people always say to me, is that there's an enormous and unfair expectation put on sleep. Going bad night's sleep equals terrible day tomorrow. Sleep is only one part of your jigsaw. You have so many other factors kind of put in play. You know what I mean? So it's probably being a wee bit more compassionate with yourself if you do have a bad night's sleep, and actually being a wee bit more nurturing to yourself when you're in them spaces. Now, you see, for the Irish psyche, those words don't tend to land well. But
Yeah.
really, it really is important that we try that, because the more that we try to force it to happen, the less likely it is. So it's a simple message here: go to bed later. Actually think about is go out and enjoy your pints. You deserve it. Go out and have your downtime. You deserve it. Stop seeing sleep as a singular night. There's 7 opportunities in your week, and no one's ever died of a bad night's sleep.
Yeah, I think that's a really good message. So, like you said earlier about it's not necessarily, as humans, we don't necessarily need to sleep 8 hours every single night. Like, is our sleep meant to naturally, is it meant to fluctuate? It could be 6 hours one night, 9 hours the next night, 7.5 hours. It's not meant to be rigidly 8 hours every single night.
No, it's really not. Like, there's no evidence to suggest that's true at all. Uh, Sleep is a feeling. Okay, so there's two things here. You have a thing called a biological sleep need and a sleep desire. Your biological sleep need is different to everybody else. So, Kevin, yours might be 6.5, 7. Say mine might be 7. My colleague down the hall from me might be 7.5. It differs to every single person. Again, sleep is a feeling. It's how you feel the next day and how you're able to perform the next day. Then you have a thing called a sleep desire. Everyone wants 7, 9, 8 hours of sleep a night. I'm sorry that often the sleep biological need a person has and their sleep desire never ever stack up. So that
Yeah.
really, and the thing is too, there's a couple of wee things in there as well, is that we have been fed that myth about 8 hours or else. To be honest with you, I find more and more that people come to me with sleep anxiety over the head of that. And my job is actually kind of to reduce that down massively.
Mm. But would you find, say, if you're talking about some some elite boxers that you've coached or
Yep.
intercounty players, because they're physically, their day to day, they're expending a lot more energy. Do they have a bigger requirement for more sleep than your average person?
They can do. It depends. When we talk elite, we're talking like professional county players. Yes, they can. They may need more sleep and stuff like that. But I'd be very mindful too. Is that the more that we start going chasing after numbers, hours, the more it actually puts pressure on the athlete, more it puts pressure on the person. So my thing is about consistency. Is about how consistent can we be with your get up time? What consistent can we be on the quality of your sleep rather than the hours that you're getting? They're the big things that we're kind of focusing on. And when can we bring in those controlled rest periods during your day to actually promote you to actually they perform better in the evening time or for your sessions during the day?
Yeah. And I suppose this is the benefit that you have training in CBT, but from listening to it, it sounds like anxiety seems to be the number one thing that's actually inhibiting players. And then when you talk about, say, all these sleep trackers that have come in, and they're massive now, like nearly everybody has a smartwatch or they have a Whoop or they're tracking their sleep in one form or the other. Are they actually helping or hurting athletes more, do you think?
Uh, that's a brilliant question, to be honest with you, Kevin. It depends. I actually think the sleep trackers, they have their place. They really do. They're very good if you already have a good relationship with sleep. If you ever, and you're just using it as a degree of curiosity, that you're using, but you're not seeing it as the gospel according to the sleep tracker, there is a difference there too. We do have a thing called sleep literacy, where people's actually understanding of reading that information is actually quite off. And it's not a sign on their intelligence. It's just we do have a sleep literacy issue in this country where people may not fully understand actually what they're looking at. So that'd be a big one. My thing is that sleep trackers have a place. However, I would encourage people to think about these retrospective questions more. Is when you woke up this morning, could you just have went back to sleep? Okay, that would be the first question. Other one would be is, do I need to set an alarm to get me up in the morning time? Okay, that'd be another. Okay, and then how did you feel when you did wake up? And then think about it is, do you need coffee first thing in the morning time to stimulate you so you can get going for your day ahead? So there would be better questions I would give people to kind of think about. And where do you feel you're at a 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock during the day? They are far better questions to ask yourself because again, it goes back to that message I said at the start of this conversation is sleep is a feeling, not a number. And often what I would find too is the sleep trackers, again, they're helpful, but they do not tell you that part in the middle of your sleep journey on your REM cycles, on your non-REM 1, non-REM 2, non-REM 3, and the REM. They physically can't. And they work more of an algorithm. And often what they'll do, they send a message to the person going, people your age in other parts of the world are sleeping better than you. And then all of a sudden that feeds into the psyche going, oh, fuck me. I'm not good enough. I'm not sleeping good enough. I'm not as good as them. And really what that does, it feeds into the fear, the stress, and the anxiety of I must do more. And I often say to people, you're enough. You're doing enough. Maybe this calm the ham a wee bit.
Yeah, and like I'm sure, like you've read some of the research and the papers on this. Is a lot of this just genetics as well, like in terms of how much sleep you need? Because you hear about these, especially like CEOs in America and stuff. It could be someone like Elon Musk, and he only needs 4 or 5 hours sleep a night. And people go, "How's that? That can't be a thing." Is some of it genetics, or is that nonsense that some people only need like 4 hours sleep on a night?
I look, to be honest with you, I think there might be a load of myths out there. This is no word of lie. I remember being on a podcast ages ago when there's other person on. He's a really successful entrepreneur, and he says that he's outgrown sleep, that he doesn't need it anymore. And I saw that, you know, he is a multi-millionaire, and you kind of going, yeah, that's great. But no, that's like kind of going, I've outgrown breathing. It's
Yeah.
just sudden, but we do have a culture here at the minute of, sleep when you're dead and sleep, and all that type of stuff. And look, the reality is that everyone needs their sleep. If you think about it from a biological, neurological, evolutionary point of view, we've been sleeping since the dinosaurs. Okay, so Mother Nature has kept sleep the whole way through to now, 2026. It's either the biggest mistake Mother Nature has ever made, or it's the best thing that she's ever kept with us. And the one thing that connects every single human on this planet, and it's a great equalizer, is sleep. We all need it. And there's no shortcuts, there's no biohacks, there's no sleep hacks. Please don't be listening to TikTok influencers if they tell you about sleep hacks. They don't exist. Your sleep isn't a safe, it's not a vault, you can't hack it. But what you can do is actually build a relationship with it.
Yeah. And like for say for athletes and who make it to a really good level, say GA players who are playing county, and
Mm.
they generally have a certain personality type that, you know, they've had to put in a lot of work. They know if I do my S&C, if I go to the gym X times a week, if I get my nutrition right, if I tick all these boxes, I'll get to that level. And then they just apply that to sleep as well. And from listening to you, it's kind of, you can't really be a perfectionist about your sleep. You need to not take it as seriously or not have as much anxiety around it, and then that would make you better at sleep, or you would be able to sleep better as a result of that. So it's kind of like, it's almost the opposite to your S&C and your nutrition, how you view your sleep, is it?
So sleep is try easier, not harder.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that, see the harder, like you just said there, 100%. So we're not knocking strength and conditioning and nutrition. That's all amazing. I know is that the harder you push the body, the better you become. You can't apply that logic to sleep. The harder that you push your body, the more you push sleep away, because it activates the sympathetic side of your nervous system that identifies as threat. Where sleep can only come when we are in the parasympathetic side of our nervous system, which is based on peace, you know, ease and contentment and safety. So it's really about promoting those things around sleep are much more easier, rather than chasing after it. Because the more you chase after it, your central nervous system will just push it away. Because if your body feels a threat, it won't let you sleep. Biologically, it won't. Because when we sleep, we're actually quite vulnerable. So that's why whenever we try to put those shoulds and musts on us and do more, it just can't happen. So it's try easier, not harder when it comes to sleep. And when you talk to athletes, if it be a county player or a club player, or whatever, they scratch their head going, "You want me to try easier?" I say, "Oh yeah." And how you try easier is working with me, and we'll try to be a real more compassionate with yourself when we're in them spaces, rather than putting those shoulds and must demands on yourself.
Because I would say when they come to you, they are expecting you to tell them, you know, go to bed at the same time every day, have your room at this temperature. They're almost looking for those hacks for you. And then you're coming at it from a different point of view where, as you said, try easier, not harder. You're approaching it in a completely different way than they're probably expecting when they first come to you.
Oh, massively. Like, and the reality is, look, this is an evidence-based approach. It's a scientific approach. So we do a pre-assessment with them. We identify where they're at. We do our pre-scores with them. You know, I want to see where they're at. I then am able to do an assessment, and we really develop a thing called a sleep plan for how they're going to kind of move forward and how we're kind of going to go do it. But one of the big things that I would find, honest to God, is actually sleep anxiety, and actually getting to understand that anxious part of yourself. Because when it kind of comes to anxiety, we're very good at putting it out over there, But I often say to people is, see your anxiety, particularly your sleep anxiety, that deserves a seat at your table, the exact same way that excitement, joy, happiness, contentment all deserve a seat at your table and they're at your table. But why is it that we're not building a relationship with our sleep anxiety? And sometimes too, it's actually having internal talk and dialogue with our sleep anxiety and actually reminding it that when it does show up, the majority of the time, it's just a false alarm.
Mm. And I wonder then when you're working with them and helping them, does this end up moving into other areas of their life where they have this anxiety around sleep, and then almost it's not a thing about sleep, it's just about anxiety that they have and they've built up around performance and getting everything right. Do you find from working with them that it helps other areas then?
It certainly can, because it's a very transferable skill. So I often say to them, come to me, it's like coming to see it's going to see the dentist. No, the dentist is there to see about your teeth. I'm here about to see about your sleep, you know. But however, the skills that I teach you through CBTI for insomnia or sleep anxiety are very transferable over the other areas of your life. And the fact is that as human beings, look, we are not laboratory mice. We are social and emotional creatures. And that us as people, we're actually connected and we're plugged into a lot of things at the one time.
Yeah. And I had a few questions written down around, say, myths, or to see what you thought about things like, say, melatonin, magnesium, mouth taping, those sort of things. What would you say to a player who's asking you about those?
Okay, we'll take the first one, the magnesium one. Okay, is rarely would I ever find that it's ever a magnesium deficiency. And I would say to people is, if you think it's a magnesium deficiency, go and get your blood work done with your GP first, so you can actually identify, is this a magnesium issue? It is quite rare, to be honest with you, that it's ever a magnesium issue, because we tend to get that through our food anyway. The only time that I have seen when people come to me and magnesium is an issue, if there is chronic alcoholism, if they have a ridiculously poor diet, or they would have maybe a serious underlying health condition that would be impendent on their magnesium levels in their body. So rather than guess, I say to them, go get your blood work done with your GP first and see where you're at with it. If people are, and they still want to go ahead and buy a magnesium supplement, I say to them, go ahead, but you might need it. And what you might actually find is it might be placebo more than it actually is helping you. And what you could be doing is paying for very expensive pee, because they're just, the body only needs what it needs, and it'll just get rid of the rest. Mouth taping, I'm still not convinced, to be honest with you. If you have a sleep problem, and you have anxiety, or you've insomnia around sleep, and now all of a sudden you're putting a piece of tape around your mouth, is that really going to increase your anxieties or reduce your anxieties around sleep? If you have a lovely relationship with it, a lovely relationship with sleep, and you just want to maybe test this out with a degree of curiosity, you might be looking for that extra 1 or 2% work away with the mouth taping. That's fine. Work away. I'm not going to knock it, because people try it and they get a lot from it, which is fine. If you're struggling with your sleep, please don't automatically jump now to putting a piece of tape over your mouth. Let's maybe do the basics first. Look at the melatonin stuff. Again, your body already produces enough melatonin. Now, the only time I would see where it may not produce melatonin is individuals who may have autism or a learning disability, and stuff like that there too, or they may have an underlying health condition and their medication may be offsetting their melatonin in their body. But for the vast majority of the population that come and see me, it's never a melatonin issue. If you are going to take melatonin, you have to be very careful, and I would encourage you to go and have a conversation with your GP first, and do not buy anything online. If it's herbal or organic, just because they're herbal or organic does not mean that they're harmless. The thing is about melatonin, and this is something I would say, is melatonin doesn't actually put you to sleep. Melatonin is a chemical that is released in the body to tell the body it is now time to start the sleep race. That's it. That's all it does. There's other things that we need to be doing. So if you're going to have, again, let's go back to the very basics of sleep. Get up at the same time every day, including weekends. Okay. Get out, get plenty of sunlight. Increase your sleep pressure. So no napping during the day if you are struggling with sleep. Because really what that does, it's great if you're a county player, or you're a high performance club player, whatever it is, because you're going to kind of be exercising, so you're going to be burning off that energy anyway. So whenever we get up in the morning time, our body releases a chemical called addison, and that's basically a thing called sleep pressure. So if we have a consistent get up time, sleep pressure building throughout the day, we are going to have maybe a better relationship with our sleep. We're looking at our sleep anxieties. We're okay with living within perfect sleep, and we actually are building up a nice bedtime menu for bedtime. So we're actually sending a lovely message to our central nervous system, going, "My day's done. I've ran my wrist today. I'm going to relax now." These are far better things to be doing rather than taking melatonin and magnesium and mouth taping and stuff like that there too. And the things I talked about there now, Kevin, they're all free. They
Mm.
don't cost you a dime, and they're all very doable.
Yep, 100%. Before we bring this home, Emmett, is there anything else that we haven't touched on there that you think would be helpful for players?
The thing I would find, honestly, what I would actually really, really love to do is actually do more sleep workshops with people. Just to actually educate them on it and take them away from some of the myths that they might find on sleep, particularly on sleep tracking and magnesium and mouth taping and supplements and stuff like that there too. I really do think we have a sleep literacy issue, and it's not a reflection on anyone's intelligence. The market is bombarded with rubbish, And people like myself and other sleep professionals are trying to say, hey, let's calm the hand, settle the horses, let's go back to basics, and let's kind of work from the ground up again.
Yeah, and I think doing podcasts like this, then hopefully people will listen and, you know, learn from it and learn that you don't need to be chasing all those other small things like supplements and maltepers.
Never, my one message I will leave everybody here is, please don't go chasing after sleep. You will never catch it. But how you actually catch it is by building a relationship with it.
As I said, I'll have the links in the description, but if people want to reach out to you, where's the best place that they can get in contact with you if they want some help with this sleep?
Best way is just through my Instagram account. I'll say Coach NA. Again, that's probably the best way to kind of reach out to me. And then just my email address is on there and stuff like that, Kevin. It's probably the easiest way to do it. We can either set up an appointment or they want to set a message or whatever. That's no bother at all. Again, we can do online or we can do in-person sessions, no problem.
Brilliant. Well, Emmett, thanks very much for coming on today. That was really insightful.
No worries. Thanks, Kevin. Bye-bye.